Welcome to the Happiness Podcast. I'm Dr. Robert Puff. Be kind to unkind people. They need it the most. This most insightful and beautiful quote is attributed to Ashley Brilliant. But why should we be kind to unkind people? I mean, don't they need our wrath? Don't they need our criticism? Don't they need our hatred? Isn't that what we're supposed to give to them? No. But why? I mean, after all, they're being unkind. And how are we going to teach them to stop being unkind if we're kind towards them? That just doesn't make any sense. What it has to do with is the fact that unkind people are very unhappy. That's why they're being unkind. So, do we really want to hurt someone who's already hurting? What would that accomplish but creating more pain for them? And the second point is, if we are unkind towards them, aren't we going to go down the path of suffering ourselves? If unkindness leads to suffering, and then we're unkind towards an unkind person, the vicious cycle continues, and it can go on and on for an entire lifetime. And we're probably listening to this podcast because we want to have a happy life. And hurting people is the quickest way to have an unhappy life. But I want us to really explore, why is that? Why is unkindness the path of unhappiness? And then if unkindness is that, how do we undo it if we've been unkind or practiced unkindness? People are unkind because they're unhappy. They're unhappy because they've had tragedy in their life. People have been unkind towards them, or events have happened in their lives that cause them a lot of bitterness or hatred. And in many ways, they're trying to protect themselves by not letting others hurt them, but in the process, their biggest enemy is themselves. Now, unfortunately, if you watch a lot of television or things like that, movies, you may think, well, Dr. Puff, they portray unkind people as getting away with it, and they don't have any remorse over it. But we're living in the real world, and if you don't believe me, just begin to, in a kind way, think of people that you know that are very cruel or unkind people, and then, if possible, it may not be through that person, but through other people, investigate, find out what their lives were like. And I guarantee you there's going to be a lot of suffering and pain there. And what they're doing in their defense is they're trying to protect themselves from that suffering and pain by putting up these really tough walls, but these walls often are mean or unkind, because not everyone who goes through a difficult childhood or experiences ends up being unkind. But sometimes in the process of going through very challenging events, people become very unkind. In many ways, it's that simple solution, an eye for an eye. They're going to get people that get them. I cannot tell you the number of people that have told me over the years, I hurt others because they hurt me. But in the process, the pain just continues. And what they don't realize is their pain is causing more pain. Instead of healing that pain, they're perpetuating the pain and staying stuck. And again, the easiest way to prove this is through your own investigation. Think of someone in your family or someone that you've known throughout your life, or even now, that you would feel, yes, they are a very unkind person. And then again, find out about their past, their history. And you're not going to find joy and happiness there. You're going to find a lot of suffering. So much tragic events have happened in their life that their way to protect themselves is to be unkind. And that's why this quote is so appropriate. Be kind to unkind people. They need it the most. They really do, because they're just in so much pain. And again, if you don't believe me, put on your investigative hat and start finding out people that you know are unkind. And then find out about their past. What's happened in their life? Did they end up being an unkind person because everything's been going wonderful in their life, but they just decided that the best way to deal with other people is through unkindness? Or have they had such tragedy that their response to it is to strike back before they get hit? I've heard that so many times from people that tell me, I hurt others when they hurt me, and I'll hurt them even worse than they hurt me, because no one's going to mess with me. Yes, they may not, but they're not going to find happiness down that path. And neither will we, so we don't want to go down the path of unkindness. Now the hard part is, okay, one is, what if we are unkind? How do we change that? But the second thing is actually being kind to unkind people. That's very hard to do. Let's first talk about, what if we are an unkind person or people see us that way? What can we do? Well, again, it is a defense mechanism. We probably became that way because we have pain in our past. And the way we're going to get over it is by really spending time healing from that pain. Getting into psychotherapy, reading books about how to heal the heart, working on finding good ways to express your anger and still be kind. That's actually the title of one of my first books, How to Express Your Anger and Still Be Kind. And so there's just so many ways we can express pain without hurting other people. That's the key, not to hurt others. We may have lots of pain, but there really are truly many, many ways of getting better. I remember when I was in graduate school, I got my black belt in karate, and during that time, I used my punching bag to work through things that I needed to work through. I didn't hurt other people. I just punched the punching bag. You may find something that works well for you. It could be going for walks. It could be screaming in a pillow. It could be journaling. But hurting people with your pain is the path of unhappiness, period. That does not lead to the path of happiness. It may keep people from hurting you as much as they did in the past, but you will not find happiness, and you probably will be alone for the most part. Okay, I think we all get that being unkind is not the path to go down, but the tricky part is, how do we muster kindness towards people that are unkind? That is a very hard task to do, but if we can accomplish it, it will be one of the most beautiful tasks that we can do. Let me explain. Have you ever seen a YouTube video on a dog that's been beaten and now is vicious? And yet very patient people can work with them, and with time they become very loving dogs. It's so beautiful to see them. Just YouTube it sometime, look it up. There's great stories about animals that have been abused and become very scared, very vicious, and yet through the love and patience of another person, they end up becoming beautiful creatures that are so adorable and lovable. And with humans, if we can remember that that person right now that's being unkind is doing it because they're in pain, it can help us to be kind back. We don't have to give an eye for an eye. We don't even necessarily have to turn the cheek. We can even go further than that and show them kindness. And if we can remember, just like that animal we saw the YouTube video on that was in so much pain, and that's why it's nipping at people that try to touch it. It's doing that because it's suffering. And if we're kind, if we're gentle, sometimes we can break through those barriers of other people, and they let us in a little bit, and they get a little bit better. Now mind you, being kind, sometimes we don't see any effect to it for another person who's unkind, but I believe everything has a consequence. So when someone is being unkind and we reach out to them in kindness, maybe at the moment we won't see any effect, but the effect will still occur after we leave because we weren't unkind back towards them, and perhaps we even showed them some kindness. They may think about their behavior because now they don't have to be defensive because we didn't do anything to hurt them. We were kind. And they can let their guard down a little bit and say, wow, not the whole world is evil. Because a lot of times people that are unkind see the whole world as evil. And of course that's not true. But they think that. And if we give them information that's different than that, it will challenge their assumption. And that will begin to make it become perhaps less entrenched. And they, next time they meet someone, they won't have their guard up because they realize that not everyone lashes back at them when they lash out at people. I know you may say, but Dr. Puff, they're lashing out. Don't they realize that's what they're going to get? They're lashing out because they're in pain. If we reciprocate with kindness, not being someone that gets walked all over, but just being kind back. If they're screaming at us, we keep a calm demeanor. If they're calling us names, we don't call them names back. We just stay kind. And I'm not saying this is easy. Actually, it's probably one of the hardest things as humans we can ever do. The ones that have done it, like Jesus, like Buddha, like St. Francis. I mean, they're remembered in history as the greatest people that ever lived, because greatness comes from kindness. When we're kind, even if no one else sees us, and yet we're being kind towards someone who's unkind towards us, what will be the message we give to ourselves? Wow, I'm not so bad. I'm kind of a good person. Not in a sense of pride, but in a sense of, I like that person because this person is kind, even when people are unkind towards him or her. It really does create wonderful self-esteem, self-love, and overall just good karma. Because if we're being kind towards people, it's very hard for people to maintain hatred when someone is staying calm towards them. Again, watch YouTube videos of real interactions with people. When one person is staying exceptionally calm and the other person is just going crazy with anger and madness, almost always with time that person calms down and often will come back and apologize. I've worked with thousands of people over the years, and sometimes they come into my office very upset, very irate. They're not necessarily being angry at me, but they might be wanting to be angry at the partner that they came in with. And I stay very calm, and I encourage them to take on that demeanor, and they really do. When I see people, they tend to be very calm and kind towards their partner, and definitely towards me, because I am calm and kind towards them. What happens is we recondition people to be better, but more importantly, life for us just goes better, because we realize at the deepest level, unkind people are unkind because they've had so much pain in their life. And would it really hurt us, or might it even be good for us to show them some kindness when they're in pain? If it was an animal and we knew it had been beaten, we would be kind. I think most of us would be. Just see humans like animals, because we really are. We're just conditioned beings. And with new conditioning, with kindness towards others, they can and often do change. We can't expect it, we can't need it, but it often is a consequence of kindness. Kindness towards unkind people is one of the most difficult tasks in life we can do. And yet, if we do it, we really are touching the highest level of human achievement in regards to spiritual and emotional health. So I know this is going to be a very challenging task, to be kind towards unkind people, because they do need it the most. But if we can just practice it a little, what we may find, as I have found throughout my life, that kindness can really help soften them. And it does a lot of good for our hearts too, because we don't want to enter their world of pain. We want to perhaps walk away, but if possible, shed a little kindness with these people that are struggling. And what I believe we'll find by doing this is a beautiful happiness will begin to glow in our hearts, because we've discovered that kindness leads to happiness. Thank you for joining me on the Happiness Podcast. If you'd like to learn more about the podcast, please go to happinesspodcast.org. And until next time, accept what is, love what is.